Folks, we have some incredible reporting from Bloomberg that shows that Ghislaine Maxwell has been a liar about the extent, the intensity, the breadth of her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The fact that it continued at a level of contact during times that she told Todd Blanche and others that there was little to no contact. How do we know? Because Bloomberg got its hands on the inbox, the Yahoo inbox of Jeffrey Epstein. Hundreds of emails from his personal Yahoo account, which haven't previously been reported, shed new light on Maxwell's partnership with Epstein. They were but a part of a cache of more than 18,000 emails obtained by Bloomberg News, showing that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were much closer than either of them has ever publicly admitted. For example, Ghislaine Maxwell opened at least one foreign bank account using one of his addresses. She was a named director on one of his main revenue-generating companies, and she traded stock in a company that they were both invested in. These are some of the details that have not previously ever been made public. The two of them, disgustingly, discussed her becoming a part of a shared fertility procedure with him. She was going to allow him to inseminate her through a fertility procedure to carry his child. They also, in a damning way, corresponded via email about how to discredit the women that were raising allegations against him and against her, including one wherein she said that she was going to use, quote, compromising information against an alleged victim to be able to discredit her. I mean, this article is wild, sorry. And I wanted to highlight some of the kind of details that came out of this because just goes to show that, I don't know, maybe Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche shouldn't have spent 9 hours with a known liar who has been convicted of child sex abuse, child sex predation, child sex trafficking. Maybe he should have let her just rot in a jail in Florida in a federal prison instead of giving her a one-way ticket to a golden minimum security camp in Texas. On May 23rd, 2008, just prior, while Epstein was contemplating his plea of guilty to Florida state charges because of that sweetheart plea deal that then U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alex Acosta, was authorizing and negotiating with Jeffrey Epstein. On May 23rd, 2008, Jeffrey Epstein writes in an email to Ghislaine Maxwell, question, which one do you prefer? Lewd and lascivious conduct or procuring minors for prostitution, end quote. What that was about was the negotiations between Epstein's lawyers and the prosecutors as to what charges he would plead guilty. Because you recall, he had to plead guilty to 2 charges in state court in exchange for him not being prosecuted in federal court. Ghislaine Maxwell's response, quote, I suppose lewd and lascivious conduct. I would prefer lewd and lascivious conduct with a prostitute if possible. End quote. She was a disgusting fuck. 1 month later, Jeffrey Epstein pleaded guilty to 2 Florida state charges, felony solicitation of prostitution and procurement of minors to engage in prostitution. He also registered as a sex offender. Let's fast forward. Let's look at some of the other things that were a part of this Bloomberg article. There was an exchange of at least 650 emails in all between Epstein and Maxwell. And this is only according to this cache of emails that Bloomberg was able to look at. Here we go. In their review of the emails by and between Epstein and Maxwell, Donald Trump's name pops up a few times. One of them is on September 14th of 2006, 2 months after he was charged in Florida with solicitation of prostitution. Ghislaine Maxwell emails to Jeffrey Epstein a list of 51 politicians, business executives, and Wall Street power brokers. Maxwell writes, quote, please review list and add or remove peeps. Epstein responds, remove Trump. Maxwell and Epstein then discuss additions to the list and at least one other deletion. Now look, there is no subject line for the email. It could be anything. It could be something as innocuous and innocent as a guest list for a party, as Bloomberg suggests it could be. Could be anything. But why the removal of Trump's name from that list of people? Here's another time that Trump's name surfaces in the emails between Epstein and Maxwell. August 23rd, 2007, 1 month before Epstein signs that non-prosecution agreement with the U.S. Attorney's Office down here in the Southern District of Florida, Ghislaine emails him and says, "You have to assume they went to Donald Trump, then Gossman, the docks in WPB, West Palm Beach, Pashkow, etc." These emails indicate Ghislaine Maxwell may have been referring to a team of investigative reporters that were trying to track down information from Donald Trump, Abe Gossman, a healthcare magnate, and others, including Joel Pashkow. Let's put a pin in this now. Joel Pashkow was the guy that I covered here on the channel a couple of days ago when we saw the birthday book that was turned over by the Epstein estate. Do you remember that incredibly lewd and disgusting drawing of Jeffrey Epstein with little girls back in 1983 or whatever? And then fast forward to 2003, it's him getting a massage and other things from half-clad young girls. Yeah. That's that guy who drew that. Pashkow's also the guy that said, ha ha, Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein sold a woman who got depreciated in value for $22,500 in that picture with the big, kind of Publishers Clearinghouse looking kind of check. Yeah, that he negotiated that deal from Epstein to sell a girl to Donald Trump. That's Joel Pashkow. So that's who was referenced in Ghislaine Maxwell's email to Jeffrey Epstein. I want to read this email again to you because I think it's an important one, right? August 23rd, 2007. You have to assume they went to Donald Trump, then Gossman, the docks in WPB, Pashkow, etc. Why would investigative reporters be going to Donald Trump to get information about Jeffrey Epstein unless they thought that Donald Trump had information about Jeffrey Epstein? Why? Because Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were good friends and they knew a lot about each other. Obviously, so did Joel Pashkow. Oh, and what's the common denominator there? Why, yes, Pashkow and Trump both submitted letters, cards, etc. to the birthday book for Jeffrey Epstein when he turned 50. What's next? Just days after the Palm Beach County home for Jeffrey Epstein was raided by law enforcement, just days after that raid, Jeffrey Epstein he received detailed instructions from Ghislaine Maxwell on how to give his sperm as a donation for their shared fertility treatment. Maxwell tells him how he can submit the sample, do it at home, and then she gives him the timing of how he's supposed to deliver his sperm. As disgusting as that thought is, I want you to stop and think about this. Ghislaine Maxwell claims that she just dated Jeffrey Epstein briefly and that she had this shared, kind of contacts and they traveled in the same circle, but nothing more. Honey, I want to tell you right now, even back in the mid-2000s, whenever, no woman is going to be having a conversation about being the carrier of someone else's baby unless they have the kind of relationship wherein, he ends up being the father, the literal biological father of your child. And conversely, no man's going to be sitting there having a conversation with a woman to be the carrier of his baby and be the biological mother of his child unless they're close. So spare me this idea that Ghislaine Maxwell was some collateral damage from some overzealous prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein. This is back in 2005, right? Alrighty. Now here we go. And it's getting even more interesting as we go through the article. Here we go. Now, there is a spreadsheet that was attached to an email that went to an accountant in 2007. And this spreadsheet, and this is the reason why I told y'all the other day when I was talking about that amazing subpoena that was sent to the Epstein estate by House Oversight, and why, yes, the birthday book is compelling, it's interesting, but why I am interested in other things like the non-disclosure agreements that were prepared and signed by people buying between Epstein and others. I want the video surveillance. I want other documents. I also want to see the financial transactions, because when you follow the money, those are threads that you can pull. I spoke about this with Congresswoman Summer Lee yesterday from House Oversight. These productions of things pursuant to that subpoena, they are threads that you can pull. You can look at them and maybe think, on their face, there's nothing really incriminating, but start pulling on those threads. Start following the money. Let's see, why was Jeffrey Epstein sending people money? Who was getting money from Jeffrey Epstein with the help of Ghislaine Maxwell facilitating it, right? This spreadsheet in that 2007 email to an accountant details $1.8 million in gifts and payments between 2003 and 2006. Okay, almost $2 million in gifts and payments are made. One entry, $71,000 purchase of a Lexus in Watertown, Massachusetts. For whom, you may ask? Why? For a guy by the name of Alan Dershowitz. Dershowitz gets a $71,000 Lexus because he said, he claims to Bloomberg the car was for his wife, who often picked up Jeffrey Epstein when he visited them in Martha's Vineyard and was considered a part of his legal fees. Now, look, as a lawyer, I will tell you, payment of legal fees doesn't necessarily have to be in exchange of cash for the fees, right? Your services rendered can be paid in certain ways. Listen, some people get it. Somebody will, bake food and drop it off. I mean, whatever. It's buying between the attorney and the client. Don't get me wrong, but Dershowitz, always, again, kind of Ghislaine Maxwell style, love to be like, no, I didn't really do it. I'm just his lawyer, kind of thing. I never did anything wrong. And then, I don't know, when you see this type of stuff, it makes you kind of wonder, how much more is going on here, right? $11,000 Rolex watch given to Tom Barrack. Tom Barrack, one of Donald Trump's best friends, one of Donald Trump's closest people. Tom Barrack, who ran that whole inauguration scheme for Donald Trump. Tom Barrack, who got, federally, investigated. I mean, and indicted. I mean, there is just so much of a continuing link to Donald Trump through these emails. It's wild, right? Even Ghislaine Maxwell in that spreadsheet, we see she got $60,000 diamond necklace and ear clips from Sotheby's. Other intended recipients, and this is where we focus on the attempts and the strategy by Maxwell and Epstein to silence the victims. Other intended recipients were dozens of women, many of whom were referred to only by their first names. Some entries had memos like Gifts for the Girls or J.E. Gifts Girls. Many of the women named in the spreadsheet later testified that they were victims of Epstein and Maxwell. Prosecutors and victims' attorneys say Maxwell recruited and groomed young girls for Epstein. She recruited teenagers into the orbit, offering them scholarships, shopping trips. She encouraged the girls who massaged Jeffrey Epstein to bring their friends as well. As the sex trafficking operation grew, sex trafficking of little girls grew, Maxwell assumed an oversight role in that recruitment scheme, directing a team of personal assistants who acted as recruiters and schedulers for Epstein's massages, according to prosecutors. Of course, Ghislaine Maxwell likes to act like she doesn't have direct culpability in any of this. This spreadsheet from 2007 contains more than 80 entries, amounting to over $75,000 in gifts for literally just one victim who asked that her identity be withheld because she was fearful of additional abuse and trauma. That was one way that Jeffrey Epstein controlled these girls, was by paying them money to try to keep them silent. Here's where it gets interesting as well. Dershowitz's name pops up again. In the summer of 2006, Ghislaine Maxwell gets an email from one of Jeffrey Epstein's pilots of his private jet. You can imagine what the private jet pilots have seen and what they've heard. The pilot says, I have been contacted by the FBI. What would you like me to tell him? As in, okay, I'm sorry. The pilot, one of the pilots of Epstein's private jets, sends an email to Ghislaine Maxwell saying, I have now been contacted by the FBI. She forwards that to Jeffrey Epstein and says, what would you like me to tell him? Epstein replies, any message question, phone contact question, before telling Ghislaine Maxwell to have that pilot call his personal lawyer. 1 month later, Epstein emails Maxwell and says, here's an 11-page letter that I need you to send to our social network. The letter is a draft over Alan Dershowitz's name, and it says that the sexual abuse allegations were, quote, highly fictionalized and described the Palm Beach police investigation as, quote, raw sewage. Epstein tells Ghislaine Maxwell, you have to review and then organize to help distribute. Alan Dershowitz tells Bloomberg he doesn't remember this letter. Really? It's a letter that's being sent to a huge social network and it's over your name, and as a lawyer, you don't remember this letter? Sure, Dershowitz. In the days prior to Epstein signing the non-prosecution agreement, he and Ghislaine Maxwell discuss another fertility procedure. During that time, she's dating a tech billionaire by the name of Ted Waite. So let me get this straight, Ghislaine Maxwell. You're dating a tech billionaire and you're still emailing with your guy, former boyfriend who maybe you don't really have any contact with, named Jeffrey Epstein. And now this is in 2007, right? And according to Ghislaine Maxwell, when she was being interviewed by Todd Blanche just a few weeks ago, she said that her relationship with this tech billionaire stretched from 2003 to 2010. And so, look, this is evidence that I was separated from Epstein. I had nothing to do with him. Then why in 2007, Ghislaine, are you then telling him that his semen cup and the instructions to be able to provide his sperm are located in the Oval Room? The sample has to be dropped off at 10 and you have to fill out the forms. I would have filled them out for you, but I wasn't sure what you wanted to put on them. Let me know if you need me to do anything. What? As Jeffrey Epstein prepared for his time behind bars, Ghislaine Maxwell helped wind down his empire. A day before he began his 18-month bullshit sentence, Ghislaine Maxwell gave him a motherly suggestion that maybe he should take Metamucil with him to jail. In late 2014, Maxwell reappeared in Jeffrey Epstein's Yahoo inbox. She, by then, was undergoing incredible amounts of public scrutiny about her involvement in the Epstein sex trafficking ring. She emailed Jeffrey Epstein, can you send me the file on Virginia Joffrey that your lawyers have or whatever info you have on her? Maxwell used that information to be able to try to defame Virginia Joffrey. She used it to try to discredit a victim of Epstein and Maxwell. Folks, this is why the entirety of the Epstein files must be turned over to the American people. This is why transparency is being demanded. Because these emails are seeing the light of day in 2025. 2025. Some of them are dated from when? The early 2000s, folks. If we don't have the entirety of the information that's out there, how are we not supposed to gauge for ourselves the level of involvement that many people have had? And of course, this just underscores the absurdity and the stupidity of having Todd Blanche go and spend 2 days, 9 hours total, with a convicted felon named Ghislaine Maxwell, and then to hold her up as some beacon of truth, that her statements that were made under this promise of immunity, and obviously some type of deals that were made to help her out where she was being held, like that's supposed to be some type of gospel of truth? Remember, the DOJ released not only the audio, but the transcripts of what this lady said to Todd Blanche. This goes to show, as if we really needed any more evidence, that Ghislaine Maxwell is a liar. A liar. People, keep on demanding it, relentlessly. Demand that we get these Epstein files. No distractions. Stay focused. Be mad. Be outraged. Demand accountability. I am. Are you? Katie Phang here. We launched the Katie Phang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together.